You're watching Pyro Media Network.
I could be running or I'm chasing you, but I won't. Cause I got better things to do. Rather spend my precious time chasing somebody who loves me too. If I got $1 for every time you slam the door, I would be the richest girl alive, life. If you hadn't run away every time I asked you stay, you would sleep right next to me tonight. But you didn't know me, all you wanted was a game to play, and you couldn't handle what I ways. About your magic and your magic.
Thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We hope your experience is fruitful. Please feel free to visit our website to find out how you can join our growing family. While we are loading your experience, please do us a quick favor and hit that like button from whichever platform you're watching or listening on. Also, share so others may enjoy as well. And we hope you would consider hitting that subscribe or follow button so you can check out more of our amazing content. All right, let's start the show.
Hey, happy Friday, Junior. Welcome to Nicole D. Vick Live. I am Nicole D. Vick. All day, every day, 365 until the day I die. Hey, and even after that, I guess I still will be Nicole D. Vick. I just won't be alive. See, I've done took myself down a rabbit hole. What am I talking about? I'm getting all philosophical. I don't know why. Anyway, quick side note, y'all didn't tell me these buns are super hard to achieve and accomplish. I was using one branded gel. That branded gel was like, no ma'am. I had to go get the Gorilla Glue, Gorilla Snot, whatever that stuff is called, to get this thing slicked up. And then you have to do the bun in a certain way. Otherwise, you look funny. And it took a while. At one point, it was lopsided yesterday at work. I'm like, you know what? Is this why I don't do this? But I think it's straight. If it's not, I'm sorry. I don't know what to do. But anyway, y'all, I am so glad to have you here. Today, we have an amazing episode. We had to do a little finagling. We had to do a little whoop-de-whoop and flip it and reverse it to make it happen. We had a scheduling conflict. And so my special guest, we actually recorded her interview a couple of days ago, but we made it happen because we both are smart women. We were like, how are we going to make this happen? We want this to happen, and we made it happen. So we're going to bring that to you later. Last week, y'all loved the categories that I brought for the Black Women's History Month, the people that inspire me. And so I want to bring those categories back again. And I want to talk to you about some more women that inspire me. So I'm going to use those same categories because I think they're powerful. We're going to start with the truth tellers. And this time around, I wanted to go the journalism, media, author, writer route. So the first one is Jasmine Canick. I love her. I love seeing her post because she honestly is a truth teller. She keeps it real. She has brought a lot of important information to our community. I use her voting guide, especially when it comes to voting for judges, because I'm like, baby, I don't know these people, but I really respect her opinion and I trust a lot of what she talks about. And she's done a lot of great work. She's a Gen Xer. Hey, hey, shout out to the Gen Xers. And she just won her seat for the Democratic Party. I know I'm going to mess it up, but I saw her name on the ballot. And of course, I voted for her. And she definitely got her seat. So I'm really excited about that. She was very vocal when that whole thing with that Ed Buck situation came around and our Black men were being killed, were murdered by that man. She was very vocal about it and pushing forward, making sure he went to jail and whatnot. So again, Jasmine Canick is one of my truth tellers, someone that inspires me. And if you're not following her, you should be following her on Instagram. I believe she also has a page on Facebook, and she may be on LinkedIn as well. The second one, also, I just feel like I always look for her news and information. Slauson Girl. Her name is Tina. She is an author, a journalist, a photographer. She has a book coming out. I think it's in pre-sale right now. She is from South Los Angeles, South Central Los Angeles, and her focus is on our community. So honestly, I'm gonna be real. I don't watch television. I do not watch broadcast news like Channel 4, none of that. Most of my news comes from Slauson Girl. I'm like, what's going on? What happened? I didn't know that happened. She was very vocal about the young woman that was found murdered. They found her body near the 110 freeway in Manchester some time ago. I remember actually citing her article in one of my papers for school. I have cited her in the chapter in my anthology, Triumph in the Trenches, when in reference to when they closed at Ralph's down the street from my house. It's been closed for like 3 years, and they just now actually got a vendor to come in to open up another grocery store in the community. So if you're not following Slauson Girl, you should be, because she is going to tell it like it is. I think she's that generation of young people, because I feel like I'm old, so everybody's young now. Young people that aren't afraid to say what the truth is and to speak it. Like, this is what's happening in the community, and push back against some of the narratives that I think a lot of us are accustomed to or expect. She's like, no. So follow her on Instagram. She's very prominent on Instagram. I believe she also has a podcast. I've seen her interview people. Really, really informative. And like I said, that's how I know what happened. What happened? I'm going on there to see what happened. So that's another truth teller. Now, my sages this week. Fran Jamat. Oh my gosh, I love her. If you have been a fan of Nicole D. Vick Live over the years, you would remember that she was on an episode that we did. Nomsa was there, Dr. Calfani. It was like an intergenerational episode where we had people from different generations speaking about their experiences. But Fran has done so much for this community. She has done so much overall around the concepts of social justice, health equity. She served on boards, founded organizations. She's done so much. So I consider her a sage, very wise. And on top of that, not a gatekeeper, right? Willing to share what she knows. Her backyard has become, I think they call it the Black Yard, where all kinds of events are happening, and she opens up her space to the community. So I really love what she stands for and just who she is as a person, just always willing to share. So Fran is one of the sages for this week. And then another one, Candy Lewis. She is also someone who I respect so much. I see her and she's always willing to share. I had a nail care as my self-care class, and I asked for some assistance with donations. She was like, girl, here's some cosmetics. Here's this, here's that. How can I help you? She does a giveaway for young ladies in high school who want to go to the prom and may not have clothing. And, so she'll collect donations of dresses and shoes, and then she'll go ahead and give those out. So she's awesome. She runs the Positive Results Corporation, and she's a founder of Black Women Leaders of Los Angeles. And her focus is really on domestic violence, suicide prevention, and all sorts of really, really important issues in the Black community. So yay to Candy Lewis, one of the sages, the profoundly wise people. And then the Pathlighters and the Waymakers. Angela Reddock Wright is one of them. She's an attorney. Actually, now that I think about it, both of these path lighters and waymakers are attorneys. I don't know where that came from, but it is what it is. Angela has a podcast. She's invited me to come on, I think more than once, to talk about important issues. And to me, that is an example or a key component of someone that is trying to make a path or light a way for others. Like, come here and tell your story. I want to expose you to other people and let's have this conversation. She's an expert attorney on workplace issues, all those kinds of things that, sometimes Black folk, we have problems with employment. We're concerned about those things. She's on the news a lot as a correspondent or an expert. So I really, really enjoy seeing her post because she wins all kinds of awards. She's at the galas, but she also is just very, very kind and knowledgeable and skilled in what she does. So I consider Angela a path lighter and a waymaker. And then finally, my other girl, Shelly Henderson, also an attorney. And Shelly is someone, again, that I met same way I met Angela. I didn't mention this, through a policy institute for Black women. And it just speaks to the nature of the sisterhood. Like, I might not know you personally, but hey, Shelly said, I wrote a book, you wrote a book. Let's have a conversation about this book. Let me put you in a space so you can meet other people. And I really appreciated that about her. She also has a very compelling story about her life journey, getting through school, some barriers that she sort of jumped over and made it to where she is. She's been in the White House. She's done amazing as well. So also someone that I consider a path lighter and a waymaker. So really excited. I think next week I'll do some more of these, but just wanted to share that with you all this week. I'm going to jump right in. So I want to introduce to you our interview guest, do her bio. Then we're going to go to commercial, and then we're going to go ahead and play that interview that we pre-recorded. Because like I said, she's like, girl, I can't do it at the last minute. And I'm like, girl, but I already told them you coming. We made it happen. So I'm going to introduce to you Dr. Thela Thatch. She is an expert in innovation, an innovator in the field of equity and transformation. She is an HR expert as well. She's a visionary founder and chief equity officer of both Thela Thatch Consulting and the nonprofit Time to Dream Foundation. She has a 20-year career devoted to human resources and equity strategies. Now, she just wrote a book, The Diversity Dilemma, but that's not her first book. She actually has other books that she's written as well. And so I'm really excited to bring her on. She has a PhD in public policy from Walden University and a wealth of experience as a faculty member at Walden. She continues to inspire positive change through her diverse work portfolio. She has a groundbreaking Mrs. HR in a Box. It's an initiative that helps small organizations, get their HR stuff together, because you got to make sure it's together. Now, this interview is going to be so compelling. So I'm going to go to commercial and we're going to play the recording of this interview. I will be in the chat, chatting it up with y'all. And then I'll come back at the end and wrap it on up. All right, let's go to commercial.
Because self-care should be luxurious. Luxor Noir.
Hey pilots, did you know that you can now catch the electrifying sounds of Bullet in Flight Radio anywhere you go? Yes, you heard it right. Tune in to the high-flying beats and soaring melodies by downloading the TuneIn app on your mobile device. Just search for Bullet in Flight Radio and hit play. It's that easy. And if you have a smart device like Alexa or Google, just say, hey Google or Alexa, play Bullet in Flight Radio on TuneIn. Experience the rush of adrenaline wherever you are. Listen to Bullet in Flight Radio on TuneIn using your Alexa or Google devices. Soaring through the skies has never sounded this good. Don't miss out on the ultimate musical journey. Tune in now to Bullet and Flight Radio on TuneIn and let the music take you on an unforgettable ride. Get ready to elevate your listening experience. Brought to you by Bullet and Flight Radio.
Are you ready for enlightening conversations that transcend boundaries? Get ready for Conversations with Clergy, brought to you by the HIV Vaccine Trials Network. In partnership with the world's largest publicly funded international collaboration, the HVTN is dedicated to evaluating vaccines to prevent HIV and COVID-19, but their impact doesn't stop there. The HVTN is at the forefront of advancing vaccinology, social and behavioral sciences, statistics, immunology, and even contributing to the research on tuberculosis and COVID-19 vaccines. By supporting Conversations with Clergy, the HVTN not only brings you thought-provoking discussions, but also contributes to the global effort to combat infectious diseases. Tune in, stay informed, and be a part of the change. Conversations with Clergy, supported by the HVTN, empowering conversations, empowering lives. Join us in this journey of knowledge, understanding, and progress. Conversations with Clergy, proudly brought to you by the HIV Vaccine Trials Network, because together we can make a difference.
All right. So I'm so happy to have my special guest this evening, Mr. Thatch. Yeah. Welcome to Nicole D. Vick Live. And I just want to say this before we get into this interview. You know, life happens, schedules go one way or the other, things happen. And I just want to thank you for being open. You weren't, it turned out, can't make it Thursday. Well, you were open to like, let's figure this out and make this happen. So thank you for that. That is, I think, a testament to the sisterhood, the friendship, the type A smartness of both of us combined. Like, we gonna make this happen.
That's right. I am so excited to be here, and I just love talking to you anyway. So to talk to you on your podcast is just a special, special treat.
Yay. Now tell the people how we met. Do you remember?
Oh my goodness, yes. I was doing a fellowship at the county. I'll just say the county since it's so big. That way people won't know exactly. But I was working for the Office of Diversion and Reentry. And it was the first time I'd ever even heard of such a department. It was a brand new department set up to help make sure that people didn't continue going in the cycle of going into prison and going back to prison, but to get them to stay out of prison and out of being unhoused. So I had never heard of it. Anyhow, we were in the same building, and I believe that's how we met. And I was walking, right? Did we meet at no, that's not how we met. Oh, that's
not how we met. I'm gonna tell you how we met.
Okay.
But
that's right, my memory. I'm a little older, so my memory. I remember really getting to know you from working at the county, but we met through Law Pi. Through Law Pi, but I was thinking about when we made a soul connection. I'm sorry. So you tell me how we really met then.
You're right. So we met through Law Pi. And for those of you who don't know what Law Pi is, Law Pi stands for Los Angeles African American Women's Public Policy Institute, and it is a fellowship. And I was interviewing because I had applied. And so I had made it to the interviews, come in and talk to the people. And at that time, it was at Crenshaw High. I think probably because Patrice was still I think she still does, but it was at Crenshaw High. So I remember I had got dressed up and I went in there. You interviewed me. I can't even remember the other person that interviewed me with you. I just remember you. And we was like, yeah, okay. And we started talking.
It's so hard. I want to always call you Nick Vick, but it's so hard because I feel like I've just known you forever. So it's really hard to pinpoint when I met you. I know it was Law Pie, and I know we worked together briefly at the county, and I can't really figure out which came first. I just remember, I just know I just do part of my sisterhood, like you said.
Indeed. And it's been an amazing experience. Law Pie was amazing. And like you said, I think that was one of those pivotal moments. I think you were coming out of that building, we'll just say that building. And I must have seen you. And I was like, hey. And we really were talking and chit-chatting. And it's amazing because I feel like something that's really important to me, and I know is important to you, and I'd love for you to speak on it, is the importance of lifting as we climb, the importance of not gatekeeping, the importance of making sure Black women, we kind of work together to make sure everybody gets what they need and has what they need and they have support. So earlier this year, I did an episode, a series of episodes about Black women at work. And I know you have this expertise in DEI, also in HR. And I want to hear your take on how important it is for Black women to really lift each other up in these workspaces. Because I know these spaces ain't designed for us to succeed.
Wow, that's a loaded question. And yes, yes, yes. And I have to say most of the, excuse me, most of the opportunities that I've had within corporate America, the people who lifted me up the most were white women and white men. And they were typically the ones giving me an opportunity, giving me a job. And I have to say that they had the job, right? Because they had the power, they had the influence. And so often, especially when the 25 years that I've been working, so often people that look like me, women, they were afraid to talk to me, afraid to share information with me because I didn't know it at the time, but there's this kind of belief in the Black community that, especially if you're the only one, that there's not enough room for more than one. And so, and there's some truth to that, honestly. There's a lot of truth to that because as I continue to grow in my career and learn DEI and learn diversity, equity, and inclusion and do that type of work, I started to see that there are systemic practices and systemic processes that don't support Black women, Black people, people of color in the workplace, and that it is set up sometimes to just have just one, to just have that token. And of course, I talk about it in my book, The Diversity Dilemma. That's part of the dilemma, is we're kind of swimming against the current because there's so many opportunities for us. However, it still feels like there's not opportunities for too many of us, just a few of us. And so I hope that made sense. But so to answer your question, it's even more important to step outside of our comfort zones or to just be super supportive of women of color, Black women, because it's not something that we practice in the workplace. Believe it or not, even in 2024, people are still afraid to be seen talking, or looking like they're favoring Black people or favoring each other. And anyhow, so that's my answer.
No, and I think you said a lot of things that make a lot of sense, that a lot of times we do come into these spaces like, wait, no, I can't share, because if I share, then where do I end up? We kind of fall into, unfortunately, some of the thought process and ideologies that the dominant culture has of competition. Well, I have to win, because if I don't win, then I lose, right? And if I share, then wait a minute, what's left for me? And I think it's really important, to your point, to kind of step back into the practices that kept us alive over the years. I come from unfortunately, ancestors were enslaved, but there was a lot of things that we did post enslavement, and even, I guess, during it, that kept us alive. And a lot of that was sharing. A lot of that was, I'm going to help you to make it. And I think that, we have lost some of that desire to, wait, I got to look around and look out for everybody else. So I think your points
Right.
are valid. Like, and I think the fear is real too. You know, we're trying to
Yeah.
survive. We're trying to pay our mortgage. We got bills. We got
Right.
kids. Our families.
That's
So
exactly,
you know,
yes. That's exactly what I was going to speak to briefly next is fear. Is that is, as a human resources professional for over 25 years, I've been working with employees, and I'm not exaggerating that I've worked with thousands of employees. Anytime I've been in a leadership role, it has been, I have been responsible for over 1,000 plus employees. And so that, yes, so I was the HR manager for like 2,000 employees. And then I was the HR director for 1,500, right? So I always had these big numbers of people. And with that came a lot of employee relations issues. And almost all of them were stemmed in fear of getting in trouble, speaking out. So then you magnify that with being a person of color who's afraid to come out of their lane, afraid, right? Because just all the employees in a lot of cultures are fearful anyway. And then you add being a minority or of someone of another group, then it just magnifies that.
yeah, for sure. So let's talk about your book, The Diversity Dilemma, a survival
Yes.
guide for diversity and inclusion good doers. So what was the catalyst for you saying, I'm about to sit down and write this?
Really, I had started writing this book, started a podcast with my close friend Stacey Gordon. She wrote the book Unbiased, and we were trying to make this book into a book called Inclusionomics. And I wanted to, so I'm my PhD is in public policy. I am a methodologist, what you call researcher, and I like looking at the research, the science of things. And so I was trying to make the book about the science of inclusion, which, hey, it is trademarked, so don't try to steal that, people. No, I'm just kidding. We still may write that book. So I started writing that book, and then I started to realize that I just wanted to share about my experience more so than the science of inclusion. I felt like we needed to get to the basics, and the real deal is I just needed to vent. I needed to share. I needed to talk about some patterns that I've been hearing from people, all people in the workplace, queer people, all types of people, no people left out. But I wanted to write from a Black woman's perspective because I'm Black. I heard you say that before too. Like you said, Happy Women's Day. I'm Black. So I'm going to say Happy Black Women's Day. But because I'm Black, I truly believe that if you can care for the Black woman in society, you can care for all people in society, because typically we are treated less than all types of affinities, all types of people in society. So anyhow, when I wrote the book, that's what was in mind. And it was pretty much like therapy for me. I'm talking about my situations at different organizations and how, for example, I wasn't aware that I was being gaslit. I didn't have vocabulary for the experience. I'm just being gaslit. I'm like, what? I didn't know what that was called. I wasn't aware that I was being groomed to be an overseer. I didn't know what that, I would not have, I thought it was a meritocracy and I was promoted because I had a master's in business. I thought, I'm laughing. I can't even say it without laughing. I mean, I thought I was being promoted because of art, and that I had earned my way to this new position. And then I get into these positions, and not once did anyone want to hear about my strategy, about my business degree, but they were more concerned with how I could control other people of color and women and people who look like me. And I was just always confused. Let's just say that when I was in these jobs, I was always confused. And I was writing this book hoping to unconfuse some folk, to say, if you feel, and I felt like I don't want to use the word, so I'll just say local. I just felt like I was imagining things. And then there were so many times, Nicole, that I felt just inadequate, stupid, insecure. I struggle with imposter syndrome, just feeling like oh well, I went to the wrong school, I wore the wrong clothes, I had children too early. Like it was 50,000 reasons that I was not good at the job and I was not good enough. And so I wrote the book to say all of those things are false. It's not you. It's typically the organization is just not ready for the initiative, and they're definitely most likely not ready for you. So that's what the
Wow.
book talks about. Yes.
Now, y'all can't see us, but as she was talking, my head, I'm nodding my head to the point where my head is about to come off of my neck. Because as all of you know, I'm writing my dissertation on the psychological safety of Black local health department employees. Everything that she said is things that have come up in my research, in these interviews. Everything that she has said I've experienced, I'm like, and literally sitting be at work and like, am I an idiot? And I'm like, I know I can't be dumb, but I really feel like
Yes.
it is not that you're dumb, but it's like whatever's happening is they're making you feel that way. And I feel like honestly, it's an attempt to keep you unsettled, to keep you off kilter a little bit, to keep you just a little bit, so that you don't push too hard. But I have sat, literally talking to my daughter, and I said, Andrea, I honestly be like, am I an idiot? Because it just doesn't make sense of how X plus Y is not equaling Z, but at the same time, I'm getting awards and certificates and trophies. And oh my God, you're a rock star. And I'm like, but am I? Because if I
Yes.
wasn't,
Yes.
then
Yes.
why this ain't happening?
Right.
And I
Right.
be literally perplexed. Like, what
Yes.
is really happening? So, yeah, if
Yes.
y'all could see me, my head, because I
Yes.
literally everything that I understand. And the other thing I'll say is everything that you're saying applies to every Black person in every industry. I don't care if they're in the entertainment industry or they're bricklayers out there laying bricks or building a wall. Same situation and issues occur across the board. So I'm
Yes.
glad you wrote this book. Um,
Yes.
and you're speaking my language. I opened it and I saw things like equity, and I'm like, yes, yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what
It
do we
is.
do now? What is the next step for us? Because I feel like there's this growing body of knowledge that a lot of the things that we thought were working for us are not working. Where do we go from here?
So, one of the things I talk about in my book, and I wanted to try to keep it as simple as possible, are the 7 A's, the 7 D's, and the 7 R frameworks. And so, where do we go from here? Number one is when you're working in equity and inclusion and belonging, number one, the corporation has to own the initiative. It is not for that DEI person or DEI leader or head of the ERG to turn this massive battleship around. It is for the CEO, the C-suite, the leaders of the organization, and the entire organization to turn it around. And so what I found is that they put the onus on one person or that one person and their whole staff and say, and it's a great way to make that person a scapegoat and say, well, Thela wasn't good enough. She wasn't smart enough. That's why we couldn't get, we tried to get the DEI off the ground, but Thela was the wrong person. And so you see this pattern happening. And so then they put Nicole, future Dr. Nicole Vick in, and they say, oh, we tried Nicole. So now 4 years have passed. Nicole quit, 2 years. Then they throw Susie in. Oh, see, Susie can't get it either. No, it wasn't our responsibility. So in the same way, and I always like to bring in human resources and business, strategy, in the same way you would hire a marketing team and that CEO would have set goals for that marketing team with, uh, targets and deliverables to hit. That DEI person needs that same type of strategy and support from the senior leadership, the CEO. So that's one of the big things that we don't see at a lot of organizations. There are a small few where those chief diversity officers and DEI people are getting the support, and they're coming in to execute. They're coming in because a plan was there. So my book talks about beware, like be wary and beware. If you're being tapped on the shoulder, it feels like an honor, but it can actually be one of the most harmful things that not only happens to the organization, but happens to your mental wellness, because you could be in a place where you're just going to be a token. And I heard another person on your podcast talk about being like the mammy. And I've had that said to me, and I didn't even realize that was happening either at the time. But one of the leaders, senior leaders, would say to me, "Oh, you're doing great. You're nurturing. Just keep being nurturing to the employees." And I thought that was a compliment. I'm like, okay, I'll just be a nurturer. I didn't know they wanted me to express milk out of my breast. Okay. Don't get me started. So back to what can we do? We can be aware of these phenomena that happen, and don't be so quick and easy to take a job that's really or go, on a path that doesn't align with your own personal goals. So back to the frameworks. I'll just say really quickly, the 7A framework shows you what an organization should be doing. So it should be acknowledging, being aware, aligning. It should be ready to have some type of action. It should be authentic. And they should be held, they should not have any problems being held accountable. And, we hear this all the time. Oh, every organization's at different stages of their journey. But seriously, we're like, the Equal Pay Act, and this is where my public policy comes in. The Equal Pay Act, if I'm not quoting this wrong, please forgive me, but it was pretty much in the 1920s when the Equal Pay Act was created, okay? 1920 something. So I think we've had enough time to get to awareness. People have had enough time to understand what the word diversity and inclusion means.
Right.
So we're having these same conversations. Let's define diversity, inclusion, and equity. D stands for diversity. I stands for inclusion. It's like enough. So we need to push back and stop. At this point, Google the definitions, then come ready to do the work, because spending another year or 5 years defining diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is what it stands for. I can only laugh because if I had $1 for every time I had to define it, right? So I'm just going to pause there.
But and I think that's just unfortunate that is the case. And it's also unfortunate and interesting because I just like I said, I've been writing this thing on dissertation. I'm like knee deep in this thing. Somebody made a comment like that, like, some of our staff are in kindergarten when it comes to these types of topics, while the rest of us have PhDs in it because we live it. And it's like, how do we get people on the same page? Why do we have to keep defining these things? Why do we have to keep explaining these things? But it sounds like we do, because people acting like they don't get it. And I don't know if it's because so unfortunate that, I guess I see it in two ways. One body of research that I was looking at in my dissertation, once again, is that in my field of work that I work in, Black people, they surveyed them. Black people say we are the most confident and willing to work in issues on race equity, the social determinants of health, which to me is DEI for public health where I work. But yet they treat us so poorly overall in our industry. And it's like, interesting. You have a group of people that say we are more confident than anybody else to address these very, very important issues. But when we get into these workplaces, we're relegated to these lower paying jobs. Nobody listens to us. It's just wild. This disconnect between what a lot of organizations say they want, what they want to see, and then when it's time to get the work done, the pushback or the pullback.
Right.
Like, oh, that's too much. Too much.
Right.
No, you pushing too hard, Thela. And then it's like, well, wait a minute, what you hired me here for to do?
Right. Some of the responses that I received when I was doing this work would just blow my mind. So I was talking my very first maybe week in the job, I was talking about diversity, and I was pulled to the side and said that was a polarizing word. Then I was trying to teach, So I could, for almost a year, my role, I couldn't use the word diversity. I could only use, so one of the safe words was always inclusion and inclusive leadership. And so that became a strategy for me. That was the approach I could have, was to say, and this happened in every role, where I had to say inclusive leadership. They could understand that. And so then microaggressions. So we spent a lot of time talking about microaggressions until I received tons of pushback that it was condescending. They didn't like the word. They didn't like how I was just blown away. And then one of my experiences that really stood out to me, and I really wasn't very proud of how I showed up during this time, because by this time I was fearful for my own job, and I would get pulled into senior leadership and discussions around what, quote unquote, what are the Black people doing? And quote unquote, why are the Black people doing X, Y, Z? Well, so it may be, what's Nicole doing? I'm like, I'm trying to lead a whole initiative and you're asking me about one person? And that would happen a lot. And so that's where I started to learn about this Black female overseer, and how it's really been, this journey has been so amazing writing a book. And one of the biggest influences in writing this book is Percy's book, Rest is Resistance. And she talks about, yes, oh my goodness. So she talks about just the parallels between now and the plantation mentality, right? And honestly, this is, and maybe catch me on a better day or another day, but honestly, I don't see much of a difference from the antebellum plantations and the work environment that we have now.
Yes.
And so a lot of this has carried over into our workplaces, where, you know, Black people, all people, but mostly people of color, are kind of taught, and they know to stay in their lane. They show up, and we could be here all day covering. But what's so wonderful about today is at least we have vocabulary for it. We're being able to talk. We're talking about it now on this podcast. People, you know, there weren't too many people talking openly about this when I first started this work almost 9 years ago. So last thing I'll say, when you say, what can we do today, is I'll go back to the rest is resistance, and it's take care of ourselves. It's working from not even a full cup, but giving from a saucer. Like in my head, I have a teacup with a saucer, and people only get from the saucer.
Yep.
That's it, even in the workplace. And then getting rid of some of these myths, which I'm to the point, almost these tropes and myths, like I have to work 10 times as hard because I'm Black, or I have to work 20 times harder because I'm a woman, and all of these exhausting lies. And I don't want to dismiss that, because maybe for my grandmother and my ancestors, that was absolutely true. But now we're at a place where we have laws, we have policies that protect us from having to do that, because having to work 10 times harder is straight up discrimination.
Yep.
So file a discrimination suit. That's all I got to say. That's my last word.
Listen, I was in class the other day, and I forgot what we were talking about. And I had made a comment, and one of the students said, "But Nicole, what are employees supposed to do in the meantime while they're working in these toxic work environments, and things are happening? What are they supposed to do?" I said, "Go on medical leave and call the union." I said, "I mean, I don't know what to tell you." I said, "Because to me, it is not the responsibility of the worker that's being harmed to have to figure out how to fix the thing. The thing is what needs to be fixed." Now, to your point about self-care, you do need to take care of yourself and have that responsibility of preserving yourself, because nobody else is going to do that. I said, but other than that, that ain't my job. My recommendations chapter is not going to be Black people, you should do this. No, my recommendation chapter is public health. You need to get yourself together. What are you
Yeah.
doing? Fix
Yeah.
it. Not making no be responsible for that.
So let me tell you,
So
yes, that is so, it's a really, I'm not even going to say risky things. So I own my own business, Thela Thatch Consulting. I do everything from hire to retire, which includes fire. Like I help companies fire people. But one rash, one rash of incidents that I've seen lately in small businesses are people taking a leave of absence. I literally could have a whole business just helping to manage what we call family medical leave. And California has CFRA, which is the California Family. Oh my goodness, don't hold it against me. The R part. I can't remember right now. But CFRA is the equivalent of FMLA in California for employees who don't have 50 employees. And so California Family Rights Act, I'm pretty sure. So anywho, this is a loaded topic because the employer is always pissed when the employee goes out on a leave of absence. However, what I try to remind the employer, because I, as an HR person, I'm always trying to be neutral, but I'm also trying to support people on both sides with equity. It's not really something that the employee is getting over on because the law only requires it to be unpaid. It's job protection, but it's unpaid. So they're not making money.
Right.
Okay, this is all I'll say about this. When you have a rash of employees going on a leave of absence, you need to look at your company, at your culture. What is happening in your culture that people, and this, I feel like I'm just kind of reinforcing what you just said. What is happening in your culture that you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people on a leave of absence? That's the only way they feel they can get attention or resolution. Right. And they're not even making any money. It's like they just rather sit home for 12 weeks, not getting paid.
Yeah.
I know I've paused I'm silent, I just don't even have words because, I think employers really need to be realistic and challenge themselves and just, be truthful with themselves. What is going on in my culture that's causing people to want to be on a leave? Right. Or forcing them to take a leave, rather. Sorry.
Right. Right. And I feel like, they need to be open about what's going on and also be willing to listen and act on what they hear instead of just, oh, we're going to have this listening session. We're going to listen to you. And then nothing else happens after that. Cause then it's like, well, why did I even make the effort to say anything if nothing's going to change? So it's hard. And it's a lot we can talk about. I feel like every time you say something, I'm like, and so we be here all night.
I know. But can I say one last thing to employers to kind of help with this situation? It's, I just hope that employers who might be listening, or CEOs or leader that's listening, again, in the same way that we're fearful in the workplace, they're fearful that they're going to get sued. And most lawsuits are only supported when there's a pattern of behavior. So I say that all the time because there's an opportunity to break any cycle and break a pattern. If you take the time to talk to the employee and you've made an authentic, legitimate effort to try to find resolution, to try to coach and counsel, it's going to be really difficult for that employee to even have a lawsuit.
Right.
Because a judge is going to say, this employer has made every effort to try to keep this employee whole. So make every effort to try to keep your employees whole. That's it. That's all I wanted to say. That's it. That's all. It's kind of simple. Thank you. That's it. That's all. I love it.
So tell us how people can find you. Tell them where they can get a copy of the book and all that good stuff as we close out.
Thank you so much. So Amazon.com, Diversity Dilemma. Please go to diversitydilemma.com for an autograph copy. But you can go to Amazon.com, put in Diversity Dilemma, put in Thela Thatch. You'll find me, you'll find about the author. This is my 3rd self-published book. And here's a little golden egg. I created Thatched Roof Publishing while writing this book. So I'm looking to help people who don't know where to start when they want to publish, whether they want to self-publish or go with a publisher, me and my family, everything. So that's another thing we can do. We can empower ourselves so we can have generational wealth. And so that's what my family and we started a publishing company. We have Thela Thatch Consulting is a family business. And that's how you can find me. Thela Thatch, Thela, Thatch, Thatch. And just go to Amazon, try your best to spell it. You'll find me.
Okay, don't say nothing when I come to you with we're supposed to publish something together anyway. And as soon as I finish this, we can figure out what
I still have our draft and it is ready. I'm ready. I still got our draft. I got our notes, our outline. That's the first tip. Get your outline together.
Absolutely. Absolutely important. I thank you so much for joining me tonight. And thank you for, again, we made it happen and I'm excited about it. So thank you so much for coming by.
I'm so grateful for you. You are just a fabulous role model to me and so many people. Keep doing what you do.
Thank you so much. All right, y'all. I know we went a little bit over what we usually do. Thank you, producer, for humoring me on that. We went a little bit over. But anyway, let me just close out this episode. You know where to find me. I am on social media. All my handles are Nicole D. Vick. I am most of the time on LinkedIn these days. I do have a TikTok. I do have an Instagram where I post, what's going on and whatnot. So follow me on my social media handles. And please, please, please share these videos with your friends and your family. And thank you for watching. Come back next week. Oh, I forgot to talk about my website. www.NicoleDVick.com is my website. You can purchase my books with an S, books. My 2 books I wrote back in 2020, 2021, and my current one, which is an anthology, Triumph in the Trenches. All of those are available on my website. Okay. All right, you guys, I will see you next week. We have a whole bunch of folks coming. Actually, some of the authors from that anthology are coming next week. All right. Thank you so much. And I'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you for watching Pyro Media Network. For more information, please visit pyromedianetwork.com.